Hi there, come on in. I'm Fred Trost, along with our wildlife specialist, Glenn Dutter. We have with us actually a pair of pheasants.
Yeah, the rooster, the young rooster, and the hen.
Right now, about the only way you can tell is this red face.
It's just beginning to get those red wattles around the eyes.
Okay, well, we're going to talk about where pheasants live, and what they eat. You're going to learn all about them in just a moment because it's Thursday night and time for Michigan Outdoors.
From the rugged shore and woodlands of the north, it's history of copper mines and iron ore, the Great Lakes fisheries. To the farmlands of the southern counties, we'll look around again at all that waits the sportsman in the state of Michigan.
Well, this little rooster pheasant, ring-necked pheasant, very common to Michigan, is only about 2 months old. And Glenn, you tell me that by October 20th, this bird's going to look like this.
Isn't that amazing?
It is.
It truly is. And I think the most impressive part is look at his little juvenile tail feathers. Just hardly anything at all.
Oh.
And by October 20th, he's going to be sporting tail feathers like that. That's an amazing change.
Now, will these tail feathers right here, are these the ones that are going to grow into those?
No, he'll lose those. And those big tail feathers that he will grow are already starting in that tail, just little pin feathers.
Well, what about the rest of his feathers?
Well, he's going to lose many of these, but you notice some of the white feathers that you see here on this wing are coming in. And right here, look at this nice bronzy, rosy feather coming in.
Oh, yeah.
That's this feather. But you see, he's still got a lot of his juvenile down, juvenile plumage. And so he's in the process of losing the ones that look like this and gaining the ones that look like this.
Now, the hen won't change much.
No, she won't change. She'll get another set of feathers, but those feathers will look very much like the ones she's got now.
Well, a bird, as we learned 2 weeks ago talking about waterfowl, when these birds go through molting like this, they require an awful lot of food.
Tremendous amounts of food. Like we said, feathers are protein, and birds need lots of food to grow these tremendous new sets of feathers in just a short period of time.
Okay, now, our ducks, when we talked about where ducks live, they live in that little area right between the water and the land.
Right.
That's where their food is. But pheasants, everybody thinks they eat corn. Well, they do.
Yes.
But that's not what they eat exclusively.
No, these are meadow birds, and this is where we are in a meadow habitat. And this area is extremely important to these birds. This is brood habitat. This is where these young birds find the food that they need. And if you listen...
Just a grassy field, you mean, like
a grassy field, a weedy field.
Well, what do they eat? Queen Anne's lace?
No, they don't eat Queen Anne's lace, but here's an example of some of the seeds they eat from clover.
This is clover here?
White sweet clover. And if you listen, you can hear all the insects here.
Yeah, the chirping.
Crickets and grasshoppers. Those feed on the grass and on the weeds, and these then feed on those. So those bugs that are out here in the meadow are important, vital source of protein for these guys.
What about this?
Yeah, and grass seed, all kinds of grass seed. Any of the seed heads, clover seed heads, and even on clover, the blades of the young clover
so they'll eat
leaf.
the leaves too.
They'll even eat the leaves of the young clover.
Well, these pheasants are kind of nervous. They don't seem to want to eat here on camera. Pheasants are nervous birds.
Yes, they are. And of course, that's what helps them to survive. Quick on the trigger, fast to run, fast to flush if they have to.
Now, this to me, for hunters who are going to be out October 20th, this looks to me like a good place to hunt. Right? I mean, I'm talking this small area right at this thick
You
stuff.
bet. But the time of day, right here behind us, this is roost cover. This is where birds in the fall will spend the night. And as we walk into it, you can see why. It's thick, it's dense, and what's more important, these pheasants, as small as they are, can do what I can do and you can do, and that's when it gets dark, just disappear.
Disappear right down like that.
And so if I were a hunter, I would look to this place in the early morning, 7, 8, 9 o'clock. But then as the morning wore on, I'd move into the cornfields like these birds are going to do.
Well, what you're talking about is some of the things, just touching on some of the things we'll be talking about in the Small Game Hunters Clinic.
Yes, that's right.
September 11th, we'll be talking about waterfowl, pheasants, rabbits, squirrels. I tell you, it's going to be a great workshop, and you'll maybe have these birds
Yes,
there.
we will. Talk about some of their habits and some of their behavior. where they spend their time during the fall season.
And these birds are very good eating, too.
Oh,
Pheasants, we're not talking about these at this age, but pheasants are. And you know we're going to have some experts there talking about cooking pheasants. One is Kay Ritchie, who's going to be demonstrating some recipes, and she has just an excellent pheasant recipe coming up. But first, Glenn, let's not forget our fishing friends. Right now, talk about some of the trophy fish that have been taken recently in our trophy report. A 2-pound brook trout is a trophy in Michigan, but here's a monster for a brookie, 3.5 pounds, caught by proud angler John Wagner of Ferndale. We won't name the stream in Delta County, but we will say John used a night crawler fishing ultralight with 1-pound test. Must have been a great battle. Clarence Canopy of Wyandotte didn't get a photo of his 8-pounder, but here are 2 of the over 250 walleyes he's taken from Lake Erie this season. Some good eating. Remember our story on Breast Bay walleye fishing with Charter Captain Ray Nichols? Well, Ray's the man who inspired our first annual Michigan Outdoors Fish Filleting Contest, which we held last Saturday in Ludington. Ray's technique works like a wonder on walleye, but he didn't fare so well on salmon. The way we scored this competition was by taking the weight of the whole fish, dividing it by the weight of the boneless, skinless fillets, and multiplying that by the number of seconds it took to turn the fish into pan-ready fillets. 6 contestants entered the competition. Most of them felt the pressure of TV cameras in the crowd, but they all turned in excellent times. Unfortunately, Ray Nichols, who probably can't be beat on walleye, trailed the pack when it came to salmon. Okay, that was 37 seconds. Who does? Young charter boat mate Dave Yeager came in 5th, and like Ray Nichols, Dave ran into one difficult fish that, under the pressure, took far longer than normal to fillet. Another young filleter was Win Wolf, who turned in the 4th best time for 3 fish, but his fastest was 23 seconds, almost as fast as the winner. Charterboat skipper Jerry Lee beat Win for 3rd place by only a half a point, which could have been an extra second or extra ounce of fillet that made the difference. Pete Rubianis was a strong contender. He's filleted a salmon in 21 seconds in front of our cameras before, but not during this contest. Although he ran a strong second, he says next year he'll beat the champ. And here's the champ, Ed Stowe from Ludington, who runs a fish market, so he's a real pro at filleting fish. And look at the tools he uses, 2 knives and a pair of pliers. He leaves the rib bones in the carcass, which saves him time, and put him over the top. But this man does 100 tons of fish every year. Whitefish, lake trout, salmon. Look at the way he flipped that fillet over there. Oh, oh no! 22 seconds. 22. Congratulations, Ed. Well, I've never seen fish filleting like that. It was a real treat. We'll have a full coverage of this monumental event on another edition of Michigan Outdoors, but for today, we'll make our 6 contestants, and especially champion Ed Stowe, our master anglers of the week. Well, anybody who looks at this cooler of fish has to say yes to Michigan fishing, right, Bill?
They have to say yes, Fred. Tourism is one of the #1 revenuing producers in Michigan, and fishing is probably one of the reasons right here.
Why don't you pick that baby up? This is the one you caught this morning. Come on, Bill.
I don't know if I can.
This is probably a 25-pound Chinook salmon that we caught here off Ludington. And of course, Bill Swagler, you are with the Michigan Travel Bureau.
That's
People
correct.
who have engineered and promoted the Say Yes to Michigan campaign. How's that been working out? Has that been bringing tourists in the state or keeping our people here?
It's working real well, Fred. The fishing has got a lot to do with it, and a lot of people in Michigan are staying in Michigan now, and it's bringing an awful lot of people in from out of the states. We've got people from Arizona, Texas. We're getting calls all the time.
Well, that's great that that's worked out. What have you done with that Say Yes campaign to promote fishing?
Well, we have a promotion right now. It's our fishing conditions report line. It's 24 hours a day. People in Michigan can call us for
And this has a recorded fishing report.
recorded fishing report 24 hours. It's 1-800-292-5404 in Michigan, and out of state is 1-800-248-5708.
Okay, well, jot those numbers down, folks. Those numbers, like you said, are recorded information, detailed information on fishing, updated how often?
At least once a day, and if we get a real hot spot or something, we'll update it as we need it.
So you can find out about that. Now, you also have a couple numbers that people can call if they want to talk to a travel counselor, an operator there at the Bureau?
Correct. We have a number for outstate is 1-800-248-5700, and in-state is 1-800-292-2520.
And who do you talk to? What can you find out?
We have information specialists that give you any type of information that you want about Michigan tourism.
Like, hey, can you order pamphlets or brochures or
Pamphlets on fishing, boating, skiing, camping, anything.
find out
Anything in
about
Michigan.
a location that you'd like to go to, visit? They'll send you a packet on that?
Yep, anything.
Well, you can't beat it. Write those numbers down, folks. Call them, use them. Say yes to Michigan fishing. Well, we can't beat the fish we caught. In 3 hours,
incredible.
12 fish.
3 hours, 12 fish. Amazing. And it's getting better.
Getting better all the time. So that's the story. How can you do anything but say yes to Michigan fishing? On June 28th, the Department of Natural Resources laid off 21 of its 228 conservation officers to save $131,900 this fiscal year. Penny wise and pound foolish, we say. That's the Detroit News speaking here in an editorial. It said the DNR gave up almost 10% of its enforcement power. Rings of criminals are killing and selling venison and fish fillets in a systematic scheme that includes wholesale marketing services for the poachers. The DNR says poaching of deer meat, fish, antlers, hides, pelts, and so forth was a $28.5 million business last year. Well, right here we have the fellow who really inspired this editorial in the Detroit News, the Detroit News outdoor writer, outdoor editor Dave Ritchie. Dave, you got guts.
Well, thank you, sir. Thank you.
If you do, of course, to have the paper say it is one thing, but you've been running a series of articles too. They put you on the front page here on July 5th. State DNR can't halt poaching. You think it's pretty bad, huh?
I think it's very, very bad. It's we've got such a large degree of hard-nosed people out there that are poaching every day. A lot of these people are drawing unemployment, ADC, welfare, food stamps. They're taking everything from the taxpayers to a large degree, and they're also, all the money that they make from the sale of fish and game goes into their pocket, and they're not paying taxes on it.
And you say that's $28.5 million.
That's $28.5 million, according to the DNR.
Is the target the people you're really talking about that you're really concerned about going after, and the news is behind you on? It's really not the violator who might have an extra fish or two at the end of the day who takes them home and eats them.
No, not really. I mean, those people are breaking the law as well, Fred, but the people that we're really targeting this program towards are the people that are doing this on a large scale, and they're selling on the black market all the fish and game that they catch or shoot.
Okay, this July 26th, another front page article by you. Trapped, the sweet life suddenly sours for a poacher. 2 months ago, everything was going fine for Bob. I imagine it's not his real name.
No, Bob is not his real name.
But he made about $1,000 a week and set his own hours. Poaching.
He was a large-scale poacher that operated on the St. Clair River, and he was taking up to 300-400 pounds of walleyes in a matter of a week. He was making probably $1,000 a week on the black market, selling them to restaurants, selling them to individuals, and where he met his downfall was that he sold something like 400 or 500 pounds of walleyes to a report all poaching special investigator.
Oh,
that's what
okay.
nailed him.
So this is what you're talking about in this article here on your outdoor page, your Sunday outdoor page. Results starting to show in state's poaching program. This, quote, Bob was one of the fellows who was nailed by
That's right. Bob was reported to the Department of Natural Resources by someone on the report all poaching hotline number. They called in and said that Bob was selling fish and doing it openly, and the special investigator simply made a purchase and
nailed him. Okay, well here, you say in this article, the real key to putting an end to poaching is you.
Well, I think that everybody across the state of Michigan has to become involved in this thing. They have to realize that poachers are stealing fish and game that belong to everyone, not just to the poacher. And they have to become involved enough to know how to contact the nearest conservation officer or to call into the Report All Poaching hotline phone number and give some good, solid information to the people stating how tall the person is, what his complexion is, what the color of his hair, whether he wears glasses or he doesn't, identification of the vehicle, including the license plate number, the destination, or at least the direction of travel that the poachers are heading. And if people will just get involved into this program, they're going to help the Department of Natural Resources, they're going to help the Detroit News, and more than anything, they're going to help themselves.
But let's be realistic, Dave. Getting involved nowadays is not popular because you can also hurt yourselves, right?
Well, this is a possibility. You can buy yourself a lot of trouble by becoming involved.
Yeah, well, right here in the head of this article, dead men don't write poaching stories, came the voice over the phone. No names, no heavy breathing, just a threat. The call was in response to my article last Monday. Well, that's not the only threat you've received.
No, I've had 3 threats on my life in the last 6 to 9 months.
Well, you're monkeying with crime.
Well,
organized crime.
It is. It's a bad situation, but I honestly feel, Fred, that somebody has to do this. I'm not trying to be a hero, because I'm just kind of a little guy, frankly. But I'm trying to get through to people that if I'm willing to do this, and if I can stand up to some of these threats, and my newspaper can stand up to threats against one of their employees, then some of these people can surely come along and give some good, useful information that's going to crack down on these people. It's unfortunate, Fred, but a lot of the large-scale poachers that we have in this state are actually misfits. I mean, they've been arrested, many of them, for everything that runs a gamut from murder on down. We've had 5 conservation officers killed in this state. We've had countless assaults on other conservation officers. We've had retaliation against people that have called in and given information freely. And it's time that everybody just wakes up and realizes that our fish and game are being stolen and sold, and the state and the people in the state are not getting a dime out of it.
Dave Ritchie, got to admire what you're doing. I'm behind you all the way, and I'm glad to see your paper is too, the Detroit News. In fact, they say here in their article, speaking of the cut of law enforcement officers to save $131,000 over 3 months, they say, why should an administrator do that when poachers are marching off with $28.5 million in wild meat? Says they concluded by saying the Lansing bean counter who came up with that $131,000 savings should be sent to the Upper Peninsula for midnight stakeout duty. Well, I'd say the paper's behind you, Dave.
I agree.
All the sportsmen in the state are. Michigan Outdoors certainly is, and I tell you, we support you in hunting for solutions to this problem. Keep up the good work. You know, we're always hunting for recipes for fish and game, right, Ed?
Looks like you've got one here.
Oh, I've got a great one. I tried this the other night, and it's tremendous. It's Great Lake salmon recipe, and this is a piece of Chinook salmon that we took off Pete's boat. In fact, he filleted this out. But I want to show you what I do first. Some people take this dark meat that's along the lateral line and scrape it off after the fish is cooked. But, you know, if you can put like onions and tomatoes and things on top of fish and it adds a flavor to it, I think that this sort of, well, not as desirable meat along the lateral line would add a flavor too. So I always cut it off before I cook the fish.
Makes sense. That's pretty fishy tasting.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of strong, but it's just not worth eating. This is what we do with this. Take the fillet and put it in a baking dish like this. Now, we have a sauce over here, which is comprised of about, 1/3 cup of butter, which I've melted. To this butter, you're going to add about a ½ teaspoon of salt, give or take, some paprika, about maybe a 1/4 teaspoon of paprika. You might want to measure it out, but I just sort of guessed. And about a teaspoon of Worcestershire sauce. I'd say that's about enough. You want to stir that around there, Ed? Now, what I've done in the meantime is I've taken some onions. These can be white onions, or I like to use green onions at this time of year, and chop them up, or grate them. Put them through a grater if you want. And take them and put them right on top of this fillet. Like so. You got that sauce there stirred up?
This is ready here, Fred.
Okay, and you can do this also. The recipe that I got for this calls for salmon steaks, but fillets work fine. Go ahead and
Pour this right on
over.
top?
Yep.
All right.
Go ahead, just all the way around there. Okay, so this is butter, paprika, salt, and Worcestershire sauce on top of the salmon with the onions. Now, we'll put that in the oven. Now, we have one in the oven all done. Why don't you get it out right now, Ed? And you can start tasting it. It's called baked salmon steaks or baked salmon fillets. How's that look?
Oh, it looks great.
Okay, we're here. You can get started on that. Scoop them out. See how it tastes. Now I want to talk to our folks a second here about our Small Game Hunters Clinic, which is coming up September 11th in Okemos. We have details here on Inside Michigan Outdoors, which you should have received. They went out in the mail last week, but in case you haven't, let me give you a rundown right now on this workshop. You'll meet experts in every facet of small game hunting. Pheasants, ducks, geese, squirrels, rabbits, raccoons, grouse, and woodcock will be covered from the field to the table. DNR wildlife biologists and Extension wildlife specialist Glenn Dutterer will give special classes in each small game species, while other experts will hold sessions on techniques and equipment. Sandy Wood from Winchester in Connecticut will talk about shotguns and shells. Veterinarian Bill Schultz and Gun Dog Magazine editor Steve Smith will talk about hunting dogs. And DNR law enforcement personnel will cover safety and game laws. The Michigan bow hunters will be giving demonstrations on wing shooting. Handgun Hunters International, sling shooters, muzzle loaders, and shotgunners will also be demonstrating their skills. Mickey Potter and Eric Olson will demonstrate survival in the pool. So bring your swimsuit and learn how to save your life if you accidentally fall into the water wearing waders and heavy clothing. Did you know that it's not always a good idea to dress out game in the field? MSU's Cal Flegel will explain when and how to handle small game until you get home, while Kay Ritchie will show ways of cooking each of the small game species. That's worth the price of the workshop right there. Women will find this workshop every bit as interesting and valuable as men. It's going to be the most comprehensive educational experience ever held in Michigan for small game hunters, a perfect way to introduce a kid to hunting, acquaint your spouse with the basics of hunting and cooking wild game, or learn yourself about hunting for different species that you might not be too familiar with. For details on registration and to make a registration over the phone, call us at our Michigan Outdoors office anytime, day or night. September 11th is around the corner. Enrollment is limited to 1,500. We can't guarantee you can get in at the door. That's Saturday, September 11th at Okemos High School, just east of East Lansing. This workshop is tax deductible because it's a fundraiser for the Michigan Outdoors TV Fund here on public television. We need your support, so join us on September 11th and get ready for hunting season in Michigan Outdoors. How is it, Ed? Now, seriously,
Fred,
you know,
this is great.
it is, isn't it?
It's great
I
stuff.
told you the other day it was super. It doesn't look like much in the pan after you
Oh.
take it out, but it is mighty
Can I have
tasty.
some more?
Sure, you can.
Now,
eat
I want
it
to know
all.
about this tartar sauce. It's great.
Isn't that good? Mm-hmm. That recipe came out of this little booklet, which Barbara Stouffer from Holt sent in this baked salmon steaks to the Lansing State Journal, and they put out a little booklet, Get Hooked on Fish. There's also the tartar sauce recipe in there, which when I have time, I'll do it on another show. Now, if you want to know where to get this book or get information on anything you've seen on tonight's show, and especially on our Small Game Hunters Workshop, write to us here at Michigan Outdoors. There's a lot happening right now in Michigan Outdoors. Be sure to write us or call us if you want reservations for our workshop. Whatever you do, have a good weekend this weekend in Michigan Outdoors.
The rugged shore and woodlands of the north, its history of copper mines and iron ore, the Great Lakes fisheries. To the farmlands of the southern counties we'll look around again, and all that waits the sportsman in the state of Michigan. And sometimes when the moon brings out the diamonds in the snow, and the stillness of the forest lies encased in Arctic cold, the wind might whisper through the trees, listen if you can, it tells you of the beauty in the state of Michigan.